Welcome to Mind Body Besties, your weekly reset with real talk, a little laughter, and the kind of honest conversations you'd have with your closest friend. I'm Caty, a therapist.
And I'm Rachel, a naturopathic doctor. We're here to share the personal stories, struggles, and wins that have shaped our own health and happiness. This isn't a lecture, it's a safe space to slow down, connect, and feel a little more human again. So grab your coffee, get cozy, and let's reset together. Could infections be lowering your vibes? And by that, I mean that we're going to talk about how infections in the body can actually impact our mental health, and they can make us feel like we're not ourselves, and they can make us feel pretty awful.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. If you've ever been sick, especially for a long period of time, are you happy? Are you feeling great? No, you're probably anxious, angry, maybe depressed if it's chronic. So yeah, I mean, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, even after having a really bad cold or something, you kind of don't feel good for a few days, even when your symptoms are gone. So we're going to talk about the biology of why these infections actually truly impact your mental health, infections that you wouldn't actually think of that can impact how you feel. We'll share some of our real life experience with that. And then we'll talk about different ways that we can naturally support our body to fight these different infections.
Yeah. And if you are a new parent and you have a baby and they go to daycare, then you learn about so many different infections that you probably didn't even know existed. So if you've got a kid, this will be good for them too.
Honestly, that just seems like the worst ringer to go through. Like every time I talk to you, Ivy has something new going on.
It's like a little cesspool of hands and snot, and they put their mouth on everything.
Oh,
I mean, they're all very cute, but they're nasty.
Yeah.
They're cute and nasty.
She's getting good socialization.
Yes, exactly.
Well, why don't you share a little bit about Ivy's, where she's at with her ear infection and what you've tried and how that's affecting her?
Yeah. So if you listen to the chiropractor episode that I did by myself, I did say that I would update you on the ear infections. So she's been going to the chiropractor for her ear infections. She's been 5 times now, I think 5 times, and she's been significantly better. She has not had another ear infection, and she even got really stopped up, runny, clogged nose. And we thought for sure this is going to end up being an ear infection, and it wasn't. We got it all cleared up. So basically, what was happening is babies' eustachian tubes are more horizontal and not vertical like in adults. So they get clogged easy, and your ear is like a warm, moist, dark environment. So bacteria can grow. So that's why kids get ear infections more often. And we had done the antibiotics, and I'm not sure any antibiotics ever totally knocked it out. I think it was not knocking out the infection, so it just kept coming back. But that didn't really work. So started going to the chiropractor, and he got her all in alignment so that her ears could drain better. And I'll tell you what, it works.
Wow.
It really works. We also did some things like a saline nasal spray every morning and every night. So not medicated, just saline to help thin out the mucus. And we used mullein oil, which is, I think it's garlic. Is it garlic? Do you know?
Usually it comes combined with garlic, but it's its own herb.
Okay. So this does have garlic in it because you can kind of smell it. It's not the nicest smell.
Oh, I've put that in my ears before.
Yep. So we've been doing the mullein oil in just her right ear because that's the one that kept getting infected every night. And then we also did a cool mist humidifier in her room to help thin out some of that mucus. And all of that together has worked.
Amazing. Okay, so how do you know that she's starting to get an ear infection without looking at her ear?
Oh my gosh. She gets really clingy. She gets really grumpy. She takes terrible naps. She doesn't really want to eat. I cannot set her down without her shrieking. Yeah, bad sleep. And then eventually she'll get a fever, and she usually has a runny nose too. And then once the fever hits, we're like, okay, she's definitely sick. She will pull at her ear too. By that point too, she'll start pulling on her ear.
Okay.
So that's how we know.
Because I think what's interesting is like when you're a baby, obviously you cry and express your discomfort.
Yeah.
And I think we get these infections as adults. Like, what if I had an ear infection? And I mean, I definitely identify with some of those things. I'd be really grumpy. But maybe we don't have the pain as strong or we don't have whatever else, but it would still make us so grumpy and tired and make us feel awful. But I think we don't think about it as much when we're as adults.
Yeah. Well, I kept thinking, if she's sick and tired, why won't she sleep? Well, I don't sleep well when I'm sick.
Yeah.
I wake up and I'm like, can't get comfortable, or like my head will hurt so bad I can't sleep.
Yeah.
Or if you have body aches, it's not comfortable.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
That does make a lot of sense. So with her, what was your journey with other doctors that you saw for IV's ear?
Yeah, so we went to obviously like her pediatrician, but we also we had to go to urgent care twice just because it was over the weekend. And we were like, we're not messing around for the entire weekend with this because she was so upset. And so recently we went back to the pediatrician for her 15-month checkup. And they looked in her ear because I said, hey, I'm worried about these recurring ear infections. We've been going to the chiropractor. And I got the feeling that they were like, okay, cool. That's not going to do anything, but you do you. And so they looked at her ear and said, well, her ear still looks inflamed. And honestly, I was shocked. And for a moment, I was like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. She's had an ear infection this whole time. What have I been doing? But then I like reeled it back in because I am not an idiot. And I think mother's intuition is a real thing. So I was shocked. And I said, okay, well, she doesn't have a fever or a runny nose. She's not pulling at her ear. She's sleeping the best she's slept in 6 weeks. So interesting. And he said, okay, bring her back in 2 weeks. Let's look at her ear, but she's probably going to need tubes in her ears.
And it was just red and irritated. It wasn't swollen. There weren't signs of fluid, anything like that.
He said her eardrum was pushed out a little bit.
Okay.
But anyways, I'm like, this does not match up with how she's acting. And that's not to say, I'm not a doctor. I don't know everything. But then he said, okay, I'm going to give you a referral to an ENT because I think she needs a tube in that ear. And I was like, okay, sure. This is what we're trying to avoid.
Right.
But if she needs tubes in her ear, she needs tubes in her, like, I'll do it.
Right.
But anyway, so went through all of that. And then the same day we happened to have a chiropractor appointment. So we went to him and I said, hey, this is what the pediatrician said. And he literally said, I'm so sorry. I'm going to try not to get worked up about this, but I can't stand this stuff. And I said, okay, what are you talking about? And he said, does she have a tooth coming in by chance on her right side? And I was like, she's got one coming in. Let me look. So I pulled her little lip down. I was like, yeah, it's on the right side, right over here. And he goes, okay, that's probably why her ear is swollen. And he said, has she been fussy, clingy, not sleeping,
any signs of an ear infection?
I said, no. And he said, okay, keep doing what you're doing. And I'm not going to say, don't listen to your doctor, don't get tubes in her ears, but I would wait if I were you. He said, let's have her come in every 2 weeks for a while, even while she's teething. And he said, I pretty much can guarantee you it's not an ear infection. It's just her teething. And he does have 3 daughters. He has a 2.5-year-old right now. He said he adjusts them when they're teething. Yeah. Does all of this stuff. So I do trust him and feel like he knows what he's talking about. So as of now, I stand with the chiropractor. Also, I love it. To be determined. I don't know if other members of my family believe me or not. I think my husband is 50-50. Let's see. But I stand with the chiropractor for now.
Amazing.
So that's my update on that.
Well, that's super neat that everything he did helped and that she's doing better.
I absolutely think that what he's doing is at least holding off further ear infections. Even if it's not perfectly fixing that right ear, I think it's holding them off. And she's coming up on the age by the time she's 2, I think, maybe a little bit later, where they don't get those recurring ear infections anymore, and you might not need tubes. So if we can hold it off, then that'd be great.
That's a good mindset. Yeah. Knowing what your goal is and where the milestone is. Just got to make it to this time.
Yeah. And I'm not anti-modern medicine. I'm just, let's push off anything unnecessary.
Yeah.
And try to find something else to fix it first.
Yeah. That's usually my inclination is let's be as gentle and least forceful and do the least damaging thing that we can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because obviously as an adult, well, I don't know, I'm probably having a tantrum sometimes too, but whenever I've had infections, like I definitely don't feel good. And so I think about times when I've had a UTI or times when I've had a sinus infection, cold, flu, and you've had mono. And it's just, you feel so bad. I remember one time I had the flu so badly. I was like, just let me die. Like, take me out. I can't suffer this like anymore. This is awful. And there's a lot of cool biology that's going on behind there. So we'll get into that. But I really think that these infections, like, we're not thinking about how they're impacting our overall mental health, and that the impacts of the infections could actually last for months on our mental health after we've had the infection.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we were talking before this and you were talking about brain inflammation again. And also, if there's inflammation in different parts of your body or your whole body, there's more going on than you can see.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. That's something that comes up a lot, is someone will be like, well, if I have an infection in my urinary tract, why would that impact anything outside my urinary tract?
Because your whole body's connected.
Your whole body's connected. And so if you have an inflammation somewhere in your body and your immune system is responding to somewhere in your body, then those immune cells are now circulating your whole body, and your brain is just an organ in your body. So if anywhere in your body is afflicted, then it's going to end up affecting your brain essentially.
Yeah. Well, also, back to kids, when kids are teething, there's an immune response to that tooth coming in, and that's why they get low-grade fevers, or sometimes they get a runny nose. And so even though they're not sick, it's an immune response to the tooth coming in.
Yeah. And a fever has real effects on your brain.
It does, yes.
Yeah. So the biology is pretty neat. One of the things that I think is so fascinating is how our body creates inflammatory chemicals to protect us as a species, to ensure the survival of our species if we're sick. So if we have an infection, then our body creates cytokines that make us feel so awful and so antisocial that we don't want to go hang out with the rest of the community or tribe, so that we're not spreading the flu to everyone else.
So it's like a safety mechanism.
Yes, okay. It's a species preservation. So one of the cytokines in particular makes us feel, IL-6 makes us feel so terrible. And it's usually associated with like fever and all this other terribleness. But specifically, they have found that it causes antisocial behavior on purpose. It's not just I feel bad, it's specifically an antisocial change in your brain.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is so new to me. I've never heard that.
It's super interesting. And it just goes to show how, intelligent nature and our bodies being part of nature are, but also it's like there's so much more going on than we can even think. Yeah, an ear infection is uncomfortable, so we're gonna, have pain and respond to that, but also our brain is doing things we don't even know it's doing because of us having that ear infection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we also really quickly talk about how, this may be off topic, but how fevers aren't bad and you don't always need to suppress them?
Yeah, I love that. Because it's so funny. I was riding the bus home from naturopathic medical school in Portland, and the woman behind me was talking, and she was like, my baby had a fever of 99.0, so I just had to go to the doctor and get antibiotics because I just knew something was wrong. And a lot of times, as I'm sure you know and have seen, our body is just like an oven. It's baking off these germs, and we're not going to get actual damage unless our fever, and kids are more flexible, but unless the fever goes above like truly 105.
Yeah.
There's not a risk. Like, yeah. And unless they have seizures or something already.
Sure, right.
Yeah.
It's like a lower fever, you don't have to give medication for. At some point, yeah, the fever gets dangerous, but I think people misinterpret that threshold all the time.
Yeah.
If not a newborn, if it's a newborn baby,
no.
Immediately.
Yeah.
But I'm talking like adults, older kids, you're probably okay. Now, if you want to take medicine to, suppress the fever or get rid of pain, go ahead, but you don't have to. It's not going to kill you to have a 100-degree fever.
Yeah, it's kind of like we'd watch all those old time movies and they'd be trying to break the fever and make them get hotter and make them sweat. And it's because your body made a fever on purpose. Like, so don't suppress what your body's naturally doing. But that's kind of like during COVID era. Like for adults, we would tell them, if you hit 103, go to the ER because your fever can rise quickly.
Sure, yeah.
Beyond 103, like you don't want to be managing that at home. That's too close to the border. of dangerous, but if it's for adults under 103, personally, like I'm going to be managing that at home. I don't take ibuprofen or anything that will lower my fever until it's going to hit 103, or if I'm totally miserable. Like
Yeah.
when I had COVID, I think my fever was only 102 and I felt awful, like terrible. So
Yeah.
I had to take ibuprofen to take care of myself so I could go get some water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that's because that ties into infection so well. It's the fever is our body trying to fight off this infection and kill it.
Yeah. And it's
So-
not fun. No one wants to have a fever, but
No.
probably also get better faster if you just let it go.
Yeah. And it can be a really good sign of healthy immune tone to be able to have a fever. Because a lot of times in cancer patients, they're like, I don't get it. This came out of nowhere. I haven't been sick or had a fever in 20 years. And there's some research showing that having routine fevers, getting that flu every year, having the cook off helps prevent cancer and
Wow.
kicks your immune system into a mode to do cleanup and take care of stuff and turn the oven on at least like once a year.
Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, so those cytokines, they're causing brain inflammation, and inflammation happening anywhere in our body is causing inflammation in our whole body, and our brain is just an organ in our body. So with the ear infections, one of the neat things I've heard, but obviously have not tried out myself, is breast milk for ear infections.
Yeah. Yeah. So any like holistically minded mom, their first thing is breast milk.
Put some breast milk in the ears, put
Put
a few
it-
drops in there.
Put it in the ears. A lot of women will have a freezer stash of breast milk. And even if their kid is 2, they'll put some of the frozen breast milk in with their regular milk to get the antibodies and all the good stuff from breast milk. People put breast milk in baths, like if it's kind of expired, like it's been
Right. Not going to take it orally, so you might as well use it.
might as well use it in the bath. Put breast milk on everything.
You know, if I was a mom and I was breastfeeding and I started getting an ear infection, I'd probably definitely put some of my own breast milk in my ear.
I
Just
would.
try it out.
I
See if
would.
it works. Yeah.
As well.
Might as well.
It's yours. It's not some
Yeah.
other adult's breast milk. So.
Yeah. I would definitely try it.
Yeah.
I have heard of that being really helpful. And then ear infections also seem to be one of the areas that some homeopathics actually work really well for kids for helping resolve them too.
I think the brand that I have is Dr. Green Life Organics, and it's called Ear Resolve and something. And it's mullein oil, it's got garlic in it, and it's just an oil and like 3 to 5 drops in the ear. That's it.
Yeah. I think I have the Herb Farm brand of that for adults. So it's
Yeah.
garlic and mullein, and the garlic is strong.
It's not a great
You're going to smell like garlic. Your pillow is going to smell like garlic. It's a whole thing. But I have used that. When I didn't know I had the Lyme, I kept getting ear infections, and I used that in my ear so I wouldn't have to take antibiotics.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the one caution with that, people don't realize this, but you have to make sure your ear doesn't have any little holes in it from the infection and the inflammation before you put that in there, or you're putting fluid inside your head, which is
Yeah.
not good.
You don't want to do that.
You don't want to do that. But yeah, if you don't have a perforated eardrum, then that oil is my first go-to for sure.
Yeah.
And then sinus infections. These are more common for adults, and these can make you feel terrible, even though you're usually not contagious. You might still be showing up at work or something. But even if you're not exhausted, if you have a sinus infection, you probably don't feel like going to happy hour after work. You just
No.
want to hang by yourself and recover.
Yeah. No, if I'm sick, I don't want to do anything.
Yeah. And with the sinus infections, I have worked with so many people who think they must not have a sinus infection and it must be something else that's causing inflammation in their sinuses because they went to their ENT and their ENT gave them antibiotics and then they still had symptoms after the antibiotics. So they're like, it must not be a sinus infection. But the testing that the ENT did, if they even did testing, it oftentimes misses some of the causes of other more atypical sinus infections.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I even had sinus surgery to widen all my passages in my nose to clear out my sinuses and get
my
rid of an
gosh.
infection because I had a chronic sinus infection for so long. And I still had the sinus infection after the surgery. It didn't get rid of it.
Oh my gosh.
And it turns out my sinus infection was an antibiotic resistant, really clingy infection that you get from mold. And I had a fungal sinus infection.
Okay.
So neither one of those antibiotics works on.
Yeah, and antibiotics are great. Sometimes we need them. We would die without them. but everything isn't bacterial.
Yeah.
And we just throw antibiotics at it. Was your resistance because you had been on so many antibiotics before, or you just happened to be resistant, or the sinus infection happened to be resistant to it?
It just happened to be, there's a strain of staph that's super common that is just resistant to all antibiotics except the special compounded nasal spray antibiotic.
Okay.
So I did the test for that because it's something you do outside. ENT, I've never met an ENT that offers this or knows about it, which of course makes it fun when I'm working with patients and I'm trying to refer them.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a special spray that you can do and a special test that you can do to identify that particular infection and to identify fungal infections.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would happen to you.
It did. Yes. All the things. And the interesting thing about that is my genetics. So like I have an immunodeficiency. So I'm low on one of my antibodies, but then also I have a immune genetics called multi-susceptibility gene, where your immune system does not fight off infections, like period.
Okay.
So that's why I'm this petri dish of all these infections and I know so much about them, is because I have that lovely combo going on.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So the sinus infections are a big one. And one neat thing about the biology of sinus infections is the nature of the location. They're right up against your thin membrane barrier to your brain.
Yeah.
And you have olfactory nerves, you have things there that can basically transit stuff into your brain. And so some of the bacteria or fungi or whatever it is secrete inflammatory chemicals that actually directly inflame your brain. So it's not, oh, I have this UTI, so my immune system is activated and I have more inflammation overall globally in my bloodstream. This is like contact direct toxin, direct local attack as well.
Okay. So then what kind of effects does that have on the brain? Like mostly mental health stuff or like cognitive functioning or
both? With Marcons, if you take a visual contrast test, your eye contrast perception is decreased. So like your vision is affected because your brain is right there. Your vision is just coming from nerves in your brain. And then you're going to feel really awful and like sad and grumpy and anxious and like all these toxins are messing with your brain. And then you're also going to have inflammation affecting your whole body. So you're going to feel like achy and tired and like terrible.
Yeah. So when you have these infections, it's probably not a good time to make any big decisions in your life.
Good point.
Have any serious conversations with anyone you like.
Good point.
Or try to fix any big problems or yeah. And I know sometimes that's unavoidable and life happens, but if you can choose, probably not a good time to do those things.
Good therapist's perspective coming in. Yeah.
I've noticed when I'm sick, if I have a big issue or something that I need to plan or something coming up, I just can't work my way through it.
Overwhelming and heavy and draining.
Yeah. I just can't get my brain to like logic through it.
Yeah.
Or reading a book. Like that, no, I'm going to watch TV and only half pay attention. I'm not reading a book. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, the cognitive function goes offline.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's a good point. And even, I don't know, even something like UTIs, like if we look at the elderly population, one of the most hallmark signs of a UTI is confusion.
Yes, I've heard that so many times. That's true. Like in assisted livings, people get super sick and it was a UTI.
Yeah, my uncle ended up passing away and he had dementia and stuff, but his ultimate confusion and stuff that happened was from having a UTI. And it just wasn't caught in time because he had other comorbidities that had overlap. And then there's another member, distant relative, who was having recurrent UTIs. And until they got that under control, they thought like that she was deteriorating and was going to be passing any day. And it was just a UTI.
Wow.
So
Wild.
Don't underestimate a UTI. And even with a UTI, that's anywhere in your urinary tract, but most commonly it's going to be in your bladder or your urethra, which isn't emergent yet when it's just right there, but it can ascend and affect your kidneys. And if it affects your kidneys, then you can get sepsis, which sepsis causes crazy brain effects.
Oh, yeah. No, that's dangerous.
Yeah.
For sure.
High levels of bacteria in your bloodstream, for sure. But with UTIs, it's the same thing as sinus infections. The test that the urologist will do, I don't even go to the urologist for my chronic UTIs anymore because there's such better testing
Mm-hmm.
and there's herbs and things that are way more helpful for me than the chronic antibiotics. And with the UTIs, you can actually have a fungal UTI, you can have a parasitic UTI, you can have a bacteria resistant UTI. It could be an atypical bacteria. There's a crazy statistic out there, like only 1 or 2% of all the infections out there that we could possibly get grow in a culture.
Okay. Wow.
So if you're getting a culture to see if you have a UTI, what about the other 98% of possible
Yeah.
infections?
So if you're not typical,
Mm-hmm.
then it's going to be a lot harder to actually figure out what's going on.
Yeah. And if you're unlucky and you have a typical E. coli plus an atypical actinomyces or something else, then the E. coli is going to keep showing up. They're going to keep telling you it's E. coli. And then you're going to miss that other one that stays there. And like the infection feeling never quite goes away, but you get better when the E. coli load lowers.
So what can you do like holistically to help with a UTI? I've heard cranberry. Does that really work?
Yeah, but you have to have such high doses of cranberry. And if you drink the juice, then you'd be getting so much sugar and other stuff that counteracts it.
Okay.
The benefit. So cranberry capsules are better, but even better to cranberry capsules is take the pro-anthocyanins from the cranberry, which is the bioflavonoid that basically creates a film on your bladder so no bacteria can attach. You can just take those directly.
Where do you get those?
I get mine from a company called Zazi's. They're like by far the most affordable and they have the highest quality and concentration of them.
Okay. What's the name of it?
It's PACs, cranberry PACs.
Cranberry PACs. Okay.
Yeah. I do one twice a day, and that's been huge for my chronic UTIs.
Okay.
And then D-mannose, which is a sugar that is found in cranberry.
I've seen that.
But again, you're not going to get a high enough concentration of D-mannose from taking cranberry.
Okay.
And so with D-mannose, it acts like Velcro particles that you're peeing out, and the Velcro catches all the floating bacteria in your bladder.
Okay, I have seen that at Whole Foods they have cranberry and everything. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
What about some other common infections that are like a little more hidden?
Yeah, I mean, Epstein-Barr and mono, people think you can just have it acutely like you unfortunately did.
Yeah.
But you can have it reactivated, which means it's still hidden. And a conventional doctor would tell you that's a past infection. But I'm telling you, they did not run the right tests. And you can check for the early antigen D and some other markers of viral load. And you can actually see if there is DNA replication happening, meaning that that virus is replicating. Okay. And you can see, is your body making new memory cells to fight that infection?
Okay. All right. So let's talk about mono, because this was a thing. So mono is caused by Epstein-Barr virus. Is it?
Or cytomegalovirus. Anything that causes you to have a ton of monocytes in your blood.
Okay. So basically what happened, and I didn't honestly even realize that you could get mono as an adult. I mean, obviously you can, but they call it the kissing disease. And so you think of all these little teenagers running around with mono and not adults. But anyway, so for maybe 3 months, I don't know, I just felt off. No matter how much sleep I got, I was tired. I would kind of have body aches randomly some days, but not other days. I had no interest in working out. I had no energy to. I did it anyway. I don't suggest that. I just felt off. I was also really irritable, and I just honestly was pissed off like all the time. I was sorry, Logan. I probably was not very fun to be around. And then finally, one day I felt like I didn't know if it was like a sinus infection or the flu or what. So I went to urgent care because I had to be on a plane the next day to Sedona for a bachelorette party. And I was like, well, this isn't going to work. Like, I have to do something. So I went to urgent care. I didn't have the flu. I didn't have COVID. And I didn't have maybe a sinus infection. I don't know. They tested me for 3 things. I didn't have any of those. And also the doctor literally spent 30 seconds talking to me.
Classic.
Was like, you don't have this, this, or this. And I said, okay, so I have to go to Sedona this weekend for a bachelorette party. Is there anything we can do? And she was like, I'd give you a steroid shot, like a cocktail of things. And I said, would, and this is not like me. Generally, I'd be like, no, that's okay. But I had to go to this.
Sometimes you just got to power through.
So I got the shot and I felt a lot better for about 48 hours. By the time I was coming home on the plane, I thought I was dying. I felt so bad. And of course, like we were staying up late, we were drinking, there was no downtime. So I really didn't do myself any favors. So I got home and that week I rested a lot and started kind of feeling better. But the next weekend we went to the pumpkin patch and I, throughout the day, felt worse and worse and worse. And by the end of the night, I had the 101 fever and I texted you and I was like, I think I have mono. Am I crazy? What is this possible? And you were like, yeah, you might just go get tested. So I went again to the doctor and they were like, I mean, you probably don't have mono. And I said, can you just test me, please? And the doctor came in, he goes, well, you win. You have mono. And I said, thank you for the validation. Thank you. I told you something was wrong. But then also, like the whole time that I was so tired, people were like, well, you have a baby. And I'm like, yeah, but she sleeps through the night. I really shouldn't be that tired. And so there was a lot of, no, I felt like no one was listening to
God
me.
forbid you get sick postpartum. Everything gets blamed on your baby.
Yes. And I was like, no, guys, like there's something wrong. And so no one listened to me. And then I started thinking, well, maybe I'm just being a baby. Maybe there's nothing wrong.
Maybe I am crazy.
maybe I'm just overtired, but none of it made any sense. I had mono. And so then I really did rest for 3 weeks. I didn't work out. I didn't do anything strenuous. I slept a lot. But so the key thing that made me figure out I had mono, I literally was doing insurance billing on the couch on my computer and I fell asleep doing it, sitting up on my
fatigue.
I fell asleep. And then I was like, okay, there's something I shouldn't fall asleep sitting up.
Yeah.
I've never done that in my entire life. So that was the key, was falling asleep doing insurance billing.
That's wild. I mean, to be fair, that is boring.
It is boring. It's very boring. But so something like that, the symptoms for the first 3-4 weeks were not enough for me to go to the doctor.
Well, and what's interesting about that is everything you described for that first month is basically the criteria of chronic fatigue syndrome. And so like you didn't have the acute manifestation yet. And so what if someone has that subclinical chronic picture where it's the first month ongoing and they never get that spike of the fever or, crazy, waves of whatever in the sinuses that makes you know that there's something there.
Yeah. I'm like, maybe it's a good thing I pushed myself so hard because it pushed me into the
crisis.
So I knew something that's really wrong. But yeah, and I mean, there's nothing really to do for mono except wait it out. You said high dose vitamin C.
And vitamin A too.
And it was vitamin A, not C, vitamin A.
Both can help, yeah. You got to be cautious with vitamin A with your liver, or if you're trying to conceive or you're pregnant. But with the mono, it's interesting because it's such a deep immune attack that happens. And we're associating Epstein-Barr virus and cytomegalovirus, which both cause mono, with all these autoimmune conditions. We've already tied it to MS officially. We keep saying this is the cause of this condition. And it's no, any infection that can trick your immune system and stimulate it deep enough can cause autoimmunity, can cause, schizoaffective symptoms, like all this stuff. And by the way, all that research is coming out now about infections causing schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. And it's yes, like finally the brain inflammation part.
Yes.
But that's what I think is crazy about mono is it can stay active for so long. The virus can evade your immune system, and then it stimulates your body to attack itself.
Yeah.
And so if this virus gets in your brain tissue or in your spinal cord or something, you're going to have literal local brain inflammation of your immune cells going to launch an attack on that virus.
And I know all my joints were inflamed. I have never had body aches that bad. Like my neck hurt, my hips hurt, my knees hurt. And it was worse than COVID or the flu or anything that I've ever had. And it didn't last, the acute part of it didn't last that long, but my whole body hurt. And oh my God, you know what's even crazier? So in August, my daughter had hand, foot, mouth, which went around the whole daycare. So after I had all of the fever and the really bad body aches and everything, a couple days later, I had hand, foot, mouth. Like the sores didn't ever like open or burst or anything, but it felt like little pinpricks all over the soles of my feet and the palms of my hands. And it only lasted like 2 days, but you could see the spots. And I remember going up to Logan and being like, what is this? How is this possible? And so that was somewhere in me, and the mono like triggered it to come. I don't know.
Having the double whammy can occupy your immune system.
It was so weird though. And I was just like, what's happening to me?
I know that it's supposed to be, quote, rare for adults to get hand, foot, and mouth, but I know a lot of parents that get low grade hand, foot, and mouth, the Coxsackie virus, when their kid has it.
So one of the parents at daycare, the first time his kid got hand, foot, mouth, got it so severely, he was in the ER.
Wow.
His fever almost got up to 105.
Wow. That makes me wonder if he either has bad cell immunity or if he never had it as a kid.
Yeah, I don't know.
Wow.
But yeah, he got super sick.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. As adults, we have a lot of like memory cells from when we've been exposed to this virus in the past. And so our body keeps them on reserve. And then when it sees the infection, it says, oh, gotta make more of that particular troop in my army. And so it usually can multiply and make enough. But if you have another virus, or if you're stressed, or if you don't have the memory cells for whatever reason, you can get really sick.
It was wild.
That is wild.
Wild ride.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Seriously.
But the thing with Epstein-Barr is because of the way that it can like hang around in your body, we know that it can reactivate, it can be associated with cancers, that kind of thing. And so we've been able to track it and understand like viral activity a lot better. It makes me think about how chickenpox comes back as shingles when you're older. So it's like your immunity can shift. And if you get stressed or something, then your memory cells against the chickenpox virus aren't enough. And then it shows up just in a different way as shingles when you're older.
Yeah, I've heard of people having like chronic Epstein-Barr.
Yeah.
So chronic EBV.
That's one of mine too.
Yeah. So what can you do for that?
Yeah, I mean, the high-dose vitamin A, if that's cleared for you by your doctor, is pretty great.
Okay.
But otherwise, it's usually the canary in the coal mine. It's you either have a genetic thing going on, which is pretty rare, or you have something else like mold, or you're not handling your stress and you're in survival mode, or you're deficient in a nutrient that your immune system needs to fight off viruses, or you're fighting some other infection you don't know about, like Lyme.
Okay.
And so it's more like the canary in the coal mine. Like the Epstein-Barr is there wreaking havoc, but only because your bucket was already full.
Okay. So do I still have, if Epstein-Barr is what caused my mono, do I still have that in me? And what's it doing?
I'd have to look at the timeline, for when the antigen load should drop off. But you have antigen, which is the infection, and then you have your own antibodies to fight, your own army to fight the infection. And so probably in a year or so, your antibody level should drop. Because if that's a past infection, we don't need to have such a big army anymore. We'll just clone a small amount of the army that I keep on reserve if I need it.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it hangs around for a while. Yeah. And then at that point, you could check and be like, let me run some labs and let's see if there's reactivated markers showing up. Okay. So is there a sign that the Epstein-Barr virus is active and replicating? Not just that I have memory cells, because of course I'm going to have memory cells because I've had it, period.
Okay.
Yeah. But probably, I don't know. I could look into that, but probably not worth testing for a year, honestly.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
So crazy.
But it's a good sign that you reacted acutely to it and that you felt awful and it wasn't just low grade the whole time. Okay. You had the sinus symptoms. You had a fever. That's acute mono, and that's honestly, in my view, means that your immune system is appropriately reacting to it instead of it just staying hidden, low-lying chronically.
Okay, good. Pretty sure Logan has mono now, but he won't rest. He he had a fever one day. He just won't rest, and so he just keeps feeling bad. And I'm like, that'll catch up to you eventually. But
tell him not to lick any of his friends.
I know, right?
Yeah.
He did actually have someone drink after him. They didn't ask him, and we looked at. This was a wedding we were at, and we were like,
looking at each other.
We just looked at each other, and we're like, don't say anything. Don't.
Oh no.
So
Oh, man.
good luck to that person.
Oh, man. That's funny. Yeah. So we've got these infections. Should we walk through really quickly some of the natural treatments?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we covered UTI. That's preventative stuff or stuff that works on supporting your actual bladder environment, which is cool because that's the naturopathic approach. Let's not just kill the infection. Let's
Mhm.
also support the environment so that the infection can resolve and will not happen again. But there's also really cool herbs. And so there's a combo that's my favorite that, of course, you want to make sure you're working with a doc so you don't have interactions with. But it's called Urinary Defense by Priority One.
Okay.
And it has the combo of all the herbs that knock out the most common UTI bacteria. So it works just as well as antibiotics for a lot of people. And you just can't take it ongoing. You treat it like an antibiotic.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So that one I love for UTIs. Let's kill the actual bacteria. For cold, flu, Epstein-Barr, mono, we got vitamin A and vitamin C and a lot of other stuff. But those are the crucial ones. And we've talked about ear infections. And then for sinuses, there's some pretty cool stuff that you can spray up your nose.
Mhm.
I'm a big fan of grapefruit seed extract sprays in the nose
Okay.
because they bust biofilm. Grapefruit seed is pretty much antimicrobial against every microbe. Doesn't matter if it's fungal or bacterial or whatever. And then you can also do some cool biofilm busters in there and stuff.
What about colloidal silver? I've heard
Yeah.
people nebulizing
You
colloidal
could.
silver.
Yeah, I have heard of that too. You just have to be careful not to nebulize too high of a particle count because you don't want silver like staying lodged in your lung tissue.
Okay, yeah. The colloidal silver has always kind of freaked me out just because it seems like it could be so dangerous.
But it's a metal.
And it's a metal.
Yeah.
Even the chiropractor said you can do colloidal silver drops in ears too.
Yeah, yeah.
Haven't done that yet because something about it freaks me out a little bit, but
I mean, from what I've seen, you have to majorly overdo it to get the silver that stays in your system and turns your skin like
purple.
ashy. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to take a lot, but I mean, some people do a lot of stuff on their own.
I mean, I just would never like overload on something like that. They're probably
Yeah.
doing it by accident, like misreading something. And I don't know what they're doing, but
It's usually, I don't know, there's like this thought out there that more is better. And so people will take, like during COVID, so people took more ivermectin than what was recommended, did more colloidal silver. So it's usually, there's that dose where it's any more than that actually isn't helping. You're just giving your body more of a burden to clear. So,
yeah.
but yeah, most colloidal silver formulations that are out there are totally safe. Like they're,
Okay.
it's pretty hard nowadays to find one that's too high. But there's a difference between how you prepare your colloidal silver. So that's the whole thing too, is making sure it's a good brand. So it's like
Mhm.
truly a good suspension of silver.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'll have to ask you about that.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
I want to know more.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of infections we can have. These are some of the more known infections. We had talked about how we might in the future do an episode on some of these hidden infections that cause the chronic fatigue and cause fibromyalgia and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that would be really interesting too, because I have worked with clients with really bad chronic illness and no one can figure out what's wrong and they're starting to feel crazy and people think they're making it up, but
Yeah.
you take one look at them or spend like 10 minutes with them and they're clearly not making it up.
Yeah. That's where what drives me the craziest is if you run a standard UTI test on someone and then if it's negative, I don't think you should tell them you don't have a UTI. I think you should say you're negative for the bacteria that I was able to test for.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, instead of saying you don't have an issue, it's here's the 10 things we have ruled out. So your issue is not one of those things,
Yeah.
you know?
So you need to go somewhere else
Where they
get
can
this
look
other
at more
tested.
root causes than this person could.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I honestly feel like that would start changing a lot in our medical system if we changed the terminology of you're negative for the standard expected infections. Doesn't mean you're negative for infections.
Right. Yeah. Changing language around that would be super helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the cytokines thing is probably the coolest part about this is just remember,
Ew.
if you have an infection and you're feeling like total shit and you just don't feel like yourself, you feel super down, you feel depressed, you're like, is this my life now? And then you're going to come out of it in a few days and your brain's going to recover and those cytokines are going to drop and you're going to feel back to yourself. And if you don't, then tune into our future chronic infections one. But I think that's the biggest takeaway is like infections can affect your overall mental state so much.
And just because you feel better doesn't mean everything in your body has gone back to normal yet.
Just because your main symptoms are gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We hope this was helpful and we hope you have a great day.
Yep. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining us for another weekly reset. If you loved hanging out with us today, subscribe so you never miss an episode and share this with a friend who could use a little calm and connection too.
This show is for education and inspiration, not medical advice. To learn more or connect with us, check out the show notes below. Until next time, take care of your mind, your body, and your heart.